breaking barriers and bridging the gaps between patients and doctors. Welcome to Brainstorming with the Docs and your co-hosts, Dr. Glenn Harrison and Dr. Kolby Condos.
All right, everyone, welcome back to this week's episode of Brainstorming with the Docs. I'm Dr. Kolby Condos, my co-host, the man across the screen, Dr. Glenn Harrison. What's up, bud?
Not much. I'm looking forward to this one.
I am looking forward to this. Yeah, this one's going to be a good one.
It's right up our alley, right? We preach this stuff all day. We struggle with it all day as well, but we realize the importance of it. As we were just saying before we started recording, that it's really where the keys to success in life come from.
Yeah, really I would agree with that. Mm-hmm. So today we are going to be breaking down prioritizing your priorities. I think that this is a really cool topic because it transcends health. You can apply this to kind of anywhere. We apply this to our own life. We apply this to our podcast. We apply this to our business. We apply this to our families. So I think it's really kind of an important topic that maybe we haven't talked about before. If this is your first time listening or watching and you get value of the content of this podcast and video cast, then hit like and subscribe, turn on notifications so that you continue to get information as we roll it out, because you never know when we might cover your topic next. So one of our favorite topics today, prioritizing your priorities, man. Get after it. Let's get started.
Okay. Well, a good example of this is, it's our day to start recording, and we've been out of it for a little while. We kind of slipped out of it, and we all have commitments. We all have priorities. And naturally, those things step in place. But, because I kind of fell out of it after work, I had dinner quickly. And I was like, okay, we got the podcast. We got to record. It's like, I could just sit here. I could just stay and relax. Beautiful sunny evening. But what was my priority? What would get me to where I wanted to be? What would I reflect back on today and say, I'm glad I sat on my butt on the sofa? No, I wouldn't be proud of that. I would be a lot more satisfied if I said, yeah, we knocked those podcasts out. We're able to deliver some more information. We were able to collaborate like we do before and after we record with clinic strategies and diagnostic efforts. So my priority was coming on, even though it was a little bit it didn't feel like priority at the time, but it will. So,
yeah, I think that you just hit the nail on the head. I think that a lot of times that we fail to prioritize our priorities because it's that short-term gratification. Like, it feels good to sit down on the couch and do whatever you're doing. But in the long run, how are you going to feel after that? That's like very short-term. That is a very short-term feeling, whereas when we're done with this, it'll be out there forever, can help an infinite number of people depending on how many people watch it, and we're going to feel better about it because not only do we push content out, but we also conversed before and after and talked about strategies that we're going to implement, all this kind of stuff, so it's a lot more gratifying at the end. So I think that how often do we in life look at something and go I need to make this a priority. I need to go to the gym. I'm going to make this a priority. I got to do my continuing education. I'm going to make this a priority. And I feel like sometimes because we have such a long list of things that we need to prioritize, that we end up not doing it and not achieving any of them.
Exactly. When we all, this is kind of like the New Year's thing, right? The New Year's resolution thing. We're like, I'm going to do this, or I got to do this. Anytime I hear people say, I've got to get this done, they're thinking about their goals. Well, I've got to do this and I've got to do that. And I kind of chuckle to myself inside, of course, because I've done that. I was like, okay, it's like we're beating up ourselves. We're like, we're not enough. We've got to do this and we've got to do this. And at the end of the day, like you said, you have that many things that you've got to do. You're never going to even be able to focus on one of them.
Yep. And they're competing with each other, right? So that's I have 15 things I need to do. I got to do this and this and this and this. Well, then none of them get done because they're all competing with each other for time. And they're also distracting you from the ones that are really, really, really important. So
that's right. And we want to conquer everything. We want to do it today. So we have our checklist and everything, and we put all these things, we stack them all up, but we actually don't stack them up. We're putting beside each other. And it's impossible to focus on it. As you just said, it's impossible to focus just on one thing knock it out and go to the next thing. And when you have these conflicting priorities, well, what comes first? Kind of like we were talking about earlier. You're saying, well, you got a new little one. Okay. So there's all the family priorities. There's a lot that's high on the ladder. But then you have the clinic. You got to keep the lights on. You got to help your patients. You got to be able to, just like anybody, they have to be able to support for their family. That is priority. And then we have these side, efforts that we're doing with the podcast. Then that's priority. So where does the hierarchy start, and where does it, what is the pecking order of it, right? And
Yeah.
everybody has their own determination and identity of what is top two priorities, maybe, and it's a difficult thing because it creates a decision. And it doesn't necessarily mean that we're turning one on and turning one off. We're just putting them in a relative order, and we're narrowing the point of what we need to attack first.
Well, I think that we need to realize that indecision is still a decision, right? Mm-hmm. So if you don't, so how many times has this, impacted us, where I called you and I was like, hey, I had something come up with my kids. I can't podcast today because that's my priority. My number one priority as soon as I get home is my family. And then everything else comes after that. And that's okay. I think that you realizing that it's okay to prioritize one thing over another thing is okay, and just having peace with that. But when you start to have a hierarchy as far as like, this is what's most important to me, and this, and maybe having a list of reasons why. So, spending time with my kids is really important because you only have, a finite amount of time with them while they're little, and that's when they're most impactful. And I really want to be a present father for them. That's going to be number one. Number two is going to be the clinic. Number three is going to be the podcast, whatever. And having a set order on those things really helps you to like put them in a sequence where you can A, not only get all of them done, but B, get them done in a timely manner and still achieve them. So I feel like being honest with yourself and being okay with it. If setting your priorities, this is number one, this is number two, this is number three, and realizing that like there's a reason for all of those, whether it's, personal fulfillment or monetary gain or whatever, there's a reason that you rank them that way. And that's okay. Just realizing that that's important, and it's okay to do that.
For sure. And if you, and it's okay if you have to miss out on the podcast. Maybe it's, hypothetically speaking, maybe it's in the third, okay, which really hurts my feelings, Dr. Kolby. But come
on, man, you're not even in the bottom third of my priorities.
Okay, that's awesome. So maybe it's the third, but you realize that if you have to slip out, that's okay, because you're confident enough, as you said, you're confident enough because you have the two important ones. Those are going to take priority, take the lead. And then we should be confident in it. But if we don't identify and we don't lay it out, we don't give it some mindful thought. I think that's the most important, being present, looking at the whole picture. So many people, including myself for many years, I was just like running through the rat race, and I wasn't paying attention to what my values and my priorities were. And then time was going on, and I didn't necessarily was getting where I wanted to be because I wasn't focused. I was trying to hit every base all the time. And there is a component of balance in life, but even balance requires prioritizing. Yeah.
Yep. And your priorities can change, right? On a week-to-week basis. There's some weeks, like this week, I prioritize this really high, right? Because we haven't recorded for a couple of weeks. Something that we really want to be consistent with, so we have content coming out all the time. Like, your priorities can change, and that's okay too. But just making sure that you're present in the moment when you prioritize something is really important. And I feel like and it can be anything. It can be associated with health. If you want to get in better shape, like prioritizing, I need to go in for a workout instead of going out for, dinner with my friends, or instead of watching the premiere of insert whatever show you've been watching, I'm going to go for a 20-minute bike ride. Like that's how this can apply to facets of your health as well.
That's right. And of course, that's what we're kind of focusing on with this podcast is how do priorities play into health? And just like anything, when we determine our priorities, what is truly important to us, strip away all the wealth, strip away everything we own, what is priority to us? Most people, it's going to be relationships and family. Those are going to be and health are going to be, because if you have a family and then you lose that, a big quality of your life is going to disappear. If you lose your health, you can't even appreciate your family. Health is the linchpin to everything in life. And that's why we do what we do. And we don't know that it's a priority till it's gone or till it's fading. Everybody who is really sick, their priority is their health. Until they're sick, it's not as much of a priority. So I think when people determine their priorities, and if they've got a little bit of mental space to think about this, and they think of not only what is a priority today, but what is going to be a priority in 10 years, in 20 years, that's when they know. For you, think of, your children. In 10 years, you're going to think back, wow, I wish spending more time with my children when they were young. I wish I would have had that. I wish I would have made that a priority. In 30 years, if you and I are extremely out of shape and we have chronic health issues due to lifestyle, naturally, that's mostly where all of them come from, we would say, wow, wish I would have prioritized my health a little bit more, right? So I think when we determine our priorities, think of what is going to be a priority for us in 20 years. And if it's going to be a significant priority in 20 years, it should be today.
Yep, I would agree with that 100%. Mm-hmm. So figuring out what your core values are and what you want your life to look like tomorrow, in 5 years, in 10 years, in 30 years, whatever it is, and then prioritize that accordingly, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that another important thing is like condensing priorities, because I mean, how often I do this all the time. Oh, I got this. And then I get overwhelmed by, I have all of these to do. Instead of getting 1 or 2 or 3 done, I don't get any of them done because I'm so overwhelmed about how many things I have that I feel like I have to do. So exactly. I feel like if you are able to really identify what is important to you on a fundamental level, whether that's family, health, wealth, whatever, mm-hmm. and you, each time you make a decision or you prioritize something, you go, how is this going to impact where I want to be and what is really, really important to me? Then it makes that decision a lot easier. Exactly. And condensing them, like you said, putting them in a hierarchy and realizing 90% of all humans put too much on their priority list. You actually have to take the bottom half of that list and throw it to the side and work on that another day. That first half is going to be what you're going to chip away at, because if you put too many, you'll get distracted or you'll beat yourself up because you never did everything. You'll either do everything as a half-assed job, or you'll only do, you'll do half of them and then you'll beat yourself up because you never got to the other half of your priorities. So I guess in summary, the priorities that in my interpretation of the summary, the priorities that we pick can't be for a priority just for today. They have to be what is going to be important to us 20 years down the road. And of course, these priorities can change, but some of these core values and core areas of focus and of priority doesn't necessarily change. And if we can focus on that earlier versus later, we will knock out the priority that's the most important to us. And with regards to health, I believe it's everything. Very few people focus on health when they're healthy. I would agree with that. Very few people focus on mental health or positivity or motivation when they're motivated or positive. It's very true. They focus on it when it's broken. And it's much harder to even be motivated when something's broken than thinking ahead. So I think the reason why we started to talk about priorities is because so many times, both you and I, and probably everybody, it's not exclusive to us, we have these conflicting priorities and then we lose focus and we don't accomplish what we want. We miss out on life. Yeah. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I think the other part was probably because we'd slipped the last couple of weeks.
Our
not
priorities
the podcast like we were supposed to. Yeah. We didn't prioritize it effectively. Maybe we weren't budgeting our time. I don't know. Maybe a little bit of both.
That's for sure. That's for sure.
But I also think that acknowledging that is okay. Like it's fine to fail occasionally. That's what humans do. Like we fail, we learn from our failures, and we adjust and we adapt. And that's what we're doing here. And we hope that everyone that's listening or watching can do it too, so that you can implement some of the stuff we talked about and make your quality of life, whatever that is that you're looking for, much better and maybe more attainable and easier. So If you guys got value out of the podcast and you liked what you heard and you'd like us to continue to roll out stuff like this, let us know. You can drop a comment or email us. Otherwise, hit like and subscribe and share this information with your friends, family members, and loved ones. And you never know when we're going to break your health concern or question down next. So what do you think, buddy? Should we sign off?
Good. I think that's good. I think our priorities tomorrow will be in a much more condensed hierarchical order.
Oh man.
Yeah, that was a tough one. And everything is better when we're confident in the priorities and we're honest with ourselves.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
All right. Well, it's good talking to you, Dr. Kolby. I look forward to the next one.
Yeah,
we'll
man.
Find out what that priority will be.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, bye-bye.